guys, my name's Alec and behind me is my 2005 GMC Sierra. It's got a turbo on it. It's a 6-liter 4L80 all-wheel drive, and it does some badass stuff. But with building this truck, I left it on the stock PCM. I did it for a cost savings reason, and there's many other reasons, but I wanted to keep the truck's drivability. I wanted to keep the factory gauges. I wanted to keep all that stuff, and I didn't really want to integrate it together. So this truck is on a stock ECM, and today we're going to be setting up lean cuts, and I'm going to show you guys how you can set up lean cuts on any stock ECM vehicle that's turbocharged. All right, so like I just ran you down, this is a turbocharged truck, 6-liter 80 all-wheel drive. It's a regular cab short bed. I built this truck with my hands. I built it in my garage, and I'm pretty proud of this thing. It does some badass stuff, but one thing I've always been a little bit worried about is this thing going lean on me, because maybe I got less than half a tank of fuel, and you know, I get on it too hard and all of a sudden it starves itself. So one thing that I've always been interested in is setting up some lean cuts on this thing. And in pretty much every avenue, it's almost impossible to set up lean cuts on a truck like this unless you're running a Holly or another standalone ECU like a Haltech. I don't even know if they make them for these trucks or not. Never really looked into it, saw the price of them, and was not interested. Of course, yeah, $1,000, $2,000, whatever they are, it's a small price to pay compared to the $5,000 engine in this thing. But everything works on the stock ECM, and I wanted to leave it that way. What you're going to need first, you are going to need a GFB Gforce 3 electronic boost controller. I will put the video up in the corner here just to show you how to install one of those. I have a really nice installation video. GFB hooked me up with an electronic boost controller. Let me show you that in the truck right here. You guys can go check out the video, but I really love this boost controller. It's way better than a Turbo Smart or anything like that. You can just see it's in the corner right there. And the other thing that you're going to need to get is you're going to need to get an AEM X Series inline wideband O2 sensor. I'm using the part number 300310. We're going to install that today, and then we're going to set up lean cuts on the GFB boost controller. Essentially what we do here is we tie wideband O2 sensor into that boost controller. The boost controller does the lean cuts for us. If this truck ever goes lean, it pulls all the boost out of it. So that's the advantage to that boost controller over any other boost controller on the market. I don't see any Turbo Smarts or any manual boost controllers pulling boost out of a truck when it goes lean. So with that being said, let's jump right into the install of the wideband O2 sensor, because we need to get that in first. And then I'm going to show you some of the programming. I'm sure I'm going to have some issues along the way. I'll show you those. We'll get this thing tied together, and we're going to have freaking lean cuts on a stock ECM. Here we have the AEM wideband that I have chosen. This is their X series. The part number is 30-0310. And so this is a wideband O2 sensor. It's got the controller in it. And we are going to be throwing that into this truck today. And we are also going to be hooking it up to the boost controller. Here we are, wideband O2. This is how it comes. So here's our sensor, which we will install that later. It's mostly this wiring right here. Power and ground on these two, and one of these, I believe the blue one, is our external output that we need to use. So it should be pretty easy to hook up. I am mostly going to work on just getting the wires kind of where we want them for the truck so that it looks nice, and so that we don't have this all over the engine bay and that kind of crap. And the one thing I forgot is to get an ATA fuse, so we might not be able to power this up until we grab one of those from the shop. So quick little status update. We got the wire ran for this. So here's our controller right here. And this just needs a little bit of a flip to it to see the lights on it and do the fresh air calibration. But we got that guy tucked in there. And we have all the extra wire wound up and stuffed in the corner right there. We have the white wire, which is our positive 5-volt. I ended up pulling it out of the loom right here and using the extra wire that they give you to run it through the firewall, the one wire, instead of running this entire thing through the firewall, because I'm getting a little limited on my hole through the firewall there. And then we got our wire, you can just barely see it, ran back through here. I ran it up and over, it is right there. And we get over to this side, and the connector is hanging out right here with that little bit of green. So we'll eventually get our sensor in the downpipe, and then that sensor will connect to right there. So if you're using this AEM, it is the white wire that connects to the GFB 3005, and my 3005 has its yellow wire right there. I kept them up underneath the dash. We have to hook this white wire to the yellow guy underneath the dash, and that is how the GFB gets tied into the AEM. Alrighty guys, so I have everything pretty much ran or close to being in its final home. Eventually I have to put this sensor in the downpipe. I'm just waiting in case I want to drive this truck. You cannot have these in the downpipe unless they're hooked up, because they're heated, and you will ruin these sensors really fast if they are not being heated. So with that being said, I have the connector for it over here in this corner. We have the wiring all set up. So here is our ground wire right here. I have the power wire in here, and it is waiting for just a simple add a fuse. And finally, I have the white wire that comes from the boost controller coming up underneath the dash. You can just see it right here, and it hooks up to the yellow wire from the boost controller right there. So that's our 5-volt reference going into the boost controller. We're going to set up our lean cuts on our GFB. Alrighty, here we are in the GMC, and I just want to show you a couple things on the boost controller now that we have everything hooked up. We're in our settings menu right here. We are going to click on settings once. We get into duty. We want to scroll down to input number 2 right here. And so we have AF.2 selected because this is what the manual tells us to select. If we have the AEM, if you have an Innovate or something different, then you're going to want to change that. Then we're going to go to Stoic. Because this truck is E85 pump gas, we put this to 9.8. If you are pump gas, normal gasoline, then you'd set that to 14.7. And then the last thing we have to do is we have to go into our settings for each one of these, and we have to set up our lean cuts. I set mine at 12.1, which I will probably adjust later on, but that's where I'm going to set it for now. So make sure you do this for all 6 of your presets. Go in and set up your lean cuts, and then this will cut boost if it ever goes lean. All right, so I just want to add here, I was having a really hard time with this. Drove the truck to work today, and I was getting this pretty much at all times. There was a little bit, like as you're coming down to a decel, it would read a couple readings super fast and then blink off. I was getting like 9s, I was getting 11s. I did one wide open throttle pull to see if it was like the sensor at the end of its scaling, and I was getting like 9, it jumped to 11, it would give me the 3 dashes and all that. So I went and started looking on the manual a little bit more, and I think I figured it out because I just tested it in the driveway, and it seems to be working a lot better now. So what you need to do is, I just pulled the sensor and the harness back apart, because for you to use the white wire, which is the positive 0 to 5 volt, you also need to hook up the brown wire, it says. And I just laid it on the ground here, shoved it in there, laid it on the ground, and that is now working. So I think that the brown wire has to be hooked up to ground, as well as the white wire hooked up to the GFB Gforce 3. I called AEM, and to be honest with you, they were kind of dicks about it. They were like, I was like, I'm using this boost controller with your sensor, and he just kind of said, well, that sounds like a boost controller problem. I don't know how to help you. And so guess how I figured this out? I looked at the AEM manual that said if you're using the analog, which he did confirm I was using the analog. He just said, well, you need to figure it out with the boost controller company, not us. So if he would have said, hey, if you're using analog, you also need to make sure that the brown wire is hooked up, we would have had this fixed. So AEM customer service takes an L in my book. Anthony from AEM, if you're watching this, no thanks to you, but figured it out on my own, buddy, and didn't need to call the boost controller company. So alrighty guys, here we are in the Turbo GMC, and we're going to shoot this for the second time. just because my first footage, the angle was straight out the windshield. You couldn't see anything. But I want to show you just a little bit of driving with the electronic boost controller and the wideband O2 hooked up. So like I told you before, this truck's on E85, so our stoic is right around 9.8 to 9.9. So you can see right here that we got the GFB displaying our air fuel. If we want to switch over to boost, we just hold this settings button down. Now it's showing vacuum right now, but that's our boost gauge. We'll go switch back over. We're at it hovers right around 9.8. It's pretty close to 1-to-1. My tuner's got this thing a little rich, but I think I said earlier, spark plugs are way cheaper and way easier to change than pistons, so I'll do that all day. So you can see on decel here, I got my foot off the gas, and we're just going down a little bit of a grade. We're in the 8s, so it's a little rich. The truck probably doesn't know if we're about to get on it, and you know, we're a little fat right there, but we got a green light right ahead of us, and we are going to get on it a little bit here. Throw it in second. So that I could show you what it's at, but it hovers right around 8, which is perfectly fine. Here it is, just cruising down the road. We're at 60, fairly light load, high 9s. So I would say I've probably put about 200, 250 miles on the current setup, and so it's been doing really well. I will say the wideband O2 sensor heats up really fast, so that's really awesome. Even a cold start, it's been, you know, 50s or so, and the O2 sensor's reading within, like, it feels like about 30 seconds. Maybe I should time it, but you can see we're sitting here idling. It's still reading well. We're really high 9s, close to 10, and it's working really good. I'm really happy with it. The lean cuts are working when our wastegate's working. We're going to get on it here once we go around the corner. Apparently gas goes up 30 cents overnight. I'm not sure how that makes sense. Here we are. Get on it a little bit with, you know, old Subaru in front of us. So yeah, doing really well, handles really well, very responsive. It's all hooked up exactly the way I showed you in the video. So you know, it's interesting. One thing that I just learned is that actually this truck is probably more fuel efficient as long as you keep your foot in it, even if it's just a little bit during cruising, versus you let go and you let your foot off the gas. This thing goes way, way, way rich, so it probably would help the fuel econs a little bit to not go coasting in this thing. But let's give her a little bit here. I mean, we got cars in front of us again, but high 7s, pretty good. Alrighty guys, just wrapping up, but I want to just say, you know, if you found this video helpful, make sure you leave a like. If this made you decide or helped you figure out how to hook up your stuff, leave it in the comments below. And if you like Turbo LS stuff or jet skis, dirt bikes, anything like that, make sure you subscribe. We got plenty of content coming up with Turbo GMC, and we're going to build it a little faster here in the future. So I appreciate you so much. Till I see you guys next time. Peace.